It felt like the main writer dropped his pen, stepped out of the room, and someone who had no business writing stories picked it up and wrote the most ridiculous, the most dissatisfying, and the most nonsensical plot that I have seen this year. It was such a waste of a good story, it almost felt like a crime. Anyway, welcome to Nigerian movie reviews, and today I am back for another movie review. I'm talking about the new Nollywood film Suky. Suky was recently released on Prime, and today we're going to be talking all about it. In this video, I am going to share the things that I liked about this film, and of course, I'm going to talk about the issues that I noticed while watching. The movie Suky follows the story of a young man named Suky. His life was disrupted by tragedy, and now he has gotten another chance to get revenge. I have a lot to say about this film. Suky could have been a good one. Actually, Suky should have been a good one. It started well with a very solid premise. The first 10 minutes set the stage, and we were expecting a compelling story of vengeance, redemption, and the fight for freedom. I was excited. 20 minutes into the film, my excitement had disappeared. I was staring at my TV screen in disbelief, judging myself for celebrating too soon, telling myself it will make sense in the end, but it just progressively became worse. What did I like about this film? Like I mentioned earlier, I liked the storyline. Even though this film did not really do justice to the revenge theme, it was still a very good starting point. I liked watching Tobi Bakare and the young Sukomi. The young Sukomi was played by Abolade Ajibade. Sukomi's acting was not perfect by any means. There were times when his performance was a bit off, but I liked what I saw because he looked, acted, and sounded the part. I mean, he had a different personality that, it's not what we usually see from Nollywood child actors. He looked like a Sukomi, that is a young Muslim child growing up in that kind of environment. I liked the father-son relationship between Tobi Bakare and the young Sukomi. I particularly loved that scene where they were walking in the bush and gisting about the fights that had happened earlier that day. It was just nice and relatable, right? It would have been great to see more of Tobi Bakare, right? But that's a story for another time. I liked the fight scenes. They were not bad, although I must say that some of them were not properly choreographed, but the punches looked quite real. It was obvious that they took time to train the actors, and I appreciated that. The biggest issue I had with this film was the fact that the storytelling was very weird. It did a poor job of explaining itself. That is, there were too many unanswered questions. Nothing was clarified. And the fact that nobody on that set had the presence of mind to point out the fact that they had not actually told the audience anything is still something that baffles me. We did not know who most of them were. Who was Adigun? Online synopsis will describe him as a legendary fighter. But from what we saw in the film, there was nothing legendary about Adigun. It was just a skilled fighter in a small town. We did not know so much about the Ajay gang and their arrangements with Adigun. Why were they so angry that they killed him the very first time he disobeyed them? Please don't say it was because of money, because it certainly could not have been that small change that they gathered from the bystanders that came to watch the boxing match that caused all this wahala. Again, who was the lawyer? And why did he accommodate young Suky? What was his relationship with Adigun? Was he just like a random lawyer that then decided to have mercy on this boy and raise him? 12 years later, what case in particular was the lawyer working on? What was he investigating? What information did he have that was so significant that he warranted the gang to kill him and his wife in such a brutal manner? On what grounds did the lawyer categorically speak to the press, telling them that the gang members will be apprehended in a few months, as was the Inspector General of Police? How did Sledgehammer recognize Suky after 12 years? I mean, had he been keeping tabs, or he just saw him that night and just knew, oh, this is Adigu's son? It was weird to me. Who was Ijaya, that is the person that trained the adult Suki. What exactly was his story? Even though he had a bad leg, he was still a very skilled fighter. What was his story? It would have been nice to know. Then there is the senator. How did the senator fit into the grand scheme of things? What exactly was the big picture? What was the main motive behind everything? See, I was just frustrated because what was the senator benefiting from the fights? Was it money? Money from betting with 2 or 3 other politicians while watching prisoners fight alongside rowdy inmates? It made no sense. Where exactly was the revenge in this film? As in, at what point did the revenge, redemption, and freedom that they promised, at what point did it happen? Because I did not see it. See, I could go on, but just know that the whole team felt like they did not know what they were doing and they dragged us into their confusion. Another issue I had with this film was acting and casting. They were not the best in my opinion. They made us believe that Tobi Bakare was playing a more significant role in this film, but then he disappeared 10 minutes into this film, and I was quite disappointed. There were so many people in this film that were just occupying space, but I'll just talk about the lead actor and Bimbo Ademoye's performance for the purpose of this review. The lead actor, that is adult Suki, played by James Damilare, it was not really my cup of tea. At first, when the film started, his quiet and brooding personality worked. But as the movie progressed, I realized that it was just a way to make up for the fact that whenever he opened his mouth to speak, it was not compelling. His expression remained flat, even for scenes where a slight change in his expression or his character or attitude could have elevated the moment. It was just there. It did not do justice to the role in my opinion. And I think it is one of the reasons why the film felt so lifeless. Bimbo Ademoye's performance was just very basic. Maybe she did not have much to work with. Maybe the director was at fault. All I shall know is that the performance was very bland. Moving on, character development was also something that did not work in this film. We also did not care about any of the characters. We were not invested in them. We were not rooting for them. I did not like Suki's character. It was not the kind of hero that I was expecting. I was expecting a sharp, calculating, and unsympathetic hero. But they gave us this slow and unimpressive figure that did nothing for me, to be honest. Also, there were so many scenes that just did not make sense to me. I just did not like them. Let's talk about the prison scene. That is the very first time we got to the prison. There was that whole scene where Marshall, that is the prison warden, he killed some prisoners because they tried to escape. See, that scene was a big no for me. Meanwhile, it should have been a standout scene simply because so many people died. But it wasn't good. And why? Why was it not great? It was just so cringe. Because, first, Marshall, that is the prison warden, it was overacting. It just seemed like it was mimicking another character from another film or another character that he had seen somewhere. His performance did not feel authentic at all. When I saw him stroking a black cat later in the film, it kind of sealed my suspicion because black cat from where to where, right? So his whole speech about owning them, like he was saying, "Emini money, emole payin," that kind of stuff, it was just very awkward to me. But the weirdest thing about that scene was the fact that everywhere was too quiet. I mean, it was killing them. Even as they got shot, they did not cry, they did not plead, they did not scream, like they did not even say ah from the impact of the bullet. They all just stood there making no sounds, falling like mango trees. Like, in fact, they even neatly rolled into perfect positions on the floor. They formed a very straight line. It looked ridiculous. Like, what was this? Plus, the blood that was spilling from their heads, I'm sorry, it looked like palm oil. Like, the color was just very off. And I would say that this is the case for all the scenes where they used blood in this film. It was either the blood was too much, or it was the wrong shade, or the placement just did not make any sense. Another scene that I did not like was every scene where Femi Adebayo met with Marshall in a church. I'm like, why? What was with all the candles? It just seemed like a copycat from one Hollywood film or one other film. Again, who was that guy that was always with Femi Adebayo? I don't even think he spoke one time. It was just there for the sake of being there. He served no purpose. There was also that scene where Marshall called to negotiate Suki's purchase. I thought it was ridiculous because what do you mean you're calling someone more powerful than you who gave you an assignment, asking him how much? It was the audacity for me. Could make any sense. Moving on, I did not understand the whole underground fight concept. At first, I know that they were preparing for a competition. Then it became a kind of underground fight championed by corrupt politicians. Was it weird to you that we never saw Suki's opponents arriving from other places? Like, I don't even know where they came from. We didn't see them arrive. We didn't see them come into Aja prison, right? We were never sure why they were fighting. We had no idea what was at stake for them, right? Or what the consequence was for losing, aside from the fact that they just died. So were they just coming to die? Like, it was confusing to me because it would have been nice to know the people that were on the other side. What were they benefiting from this fight? What were they losing? They all just kept on fighting for no reason. I must mention that subplot about the doctor who they said she had been in the prison for 5 years. It made no sense. What do you mean a government official is holding somebody hostage for 5 years in broad daylight? How? She didn't even seem like somebody who had been like stuck in a prison for that long, right? And most importantly, their reason for saying that Marshall kept her in the prison, it felt like complete nonsense to me. When she was leaving the prison, her suitcase and her bag, it felt like, it didn't look like someone that was leaving prison after 5 years. It looked like she was returning from a trip. So it just did not make sense to me. Still, since I'm still on the matter of the doctor, I should say that Suki and the doctor's relationship, I didn't like it. Every time they spoke, it was just stiff. It was awkward. I don't think they had enough going on for them for Suki to suddenly decide to bargain for her freedom. It came from nowhere. But I was very thankful that they did not try to force a romantic angle. Finally, I must say that I hated the final fight. You know, that big fight between Suki and Sledgehammer, right? I hated it so much. Apart from the fact that we still did not know who Sledgehammer really was, we also had no clue about his actual reason for killing Adigun or why he was even fighting with Suki. Like, why was he fighting this particular fight? The most frustrating part was that I didn't understand what the fight was for, right? This big fight should have been like the highlights, the peak, the moment we had all been waiting for. But I did not feel anything while watching because it just seemed pointless to me. Like, even though Suki won the fight, the money or whatever was gained from this whole fighting, it still went to the corrupt politician. So what exactly was the whole point? After the whole fight with Sledgehammer and he killed Sledgehammer, then Suki walked up to the senator to report Marshall. I was like, Kilele, what is this? In fact, I was ashamed on his behalf because it was like, this person, no intention, no thought, no strategy, no actual action, a very dull and disappointing hero. Like, see, Suki, I wanted to fight with him because it was doing like someone that was not bright. When I thought that the film could not get any worse, and I'm like, okay, it's finally over. Then they showed us the very last scene where it now seemed like Ijaya was in charge of the prison. He came out of the prison gate and he started mocking Marshall. And I was like, as how? Are you not a prisoner? How is a prisoner coming outside the prison to talk to another prisoner. It would have made sense if he decided to torment Marshall within the prison walls, but walking outside to speak with him, then calling other prisoners to come out of their prison cells to attack him, it made no sense. But then again, it was a fitting end for a film that promised so much and delivered nothing. If I was to rate this film, I would rate it a 2/10. This was because despite starting decently, despite a decent opening sequence, Suky quickly became a very, very incoherent mess. Terrible writing, terrible directing, acting that did not quite land, underwhelming storytelling, and a completely unsatisfying conclusion. Have you seen Suky? What did you think about it? And if you were to rate this film on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it? I would like to hear from you. Please share in the comment section below.